everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Shift with Elena. God, I had an incredible session with Jocelyn Sandstrom, packed with insights on prioritizing healthcare, setting boundaries, and achieving true fulfillment. We talked about preventing burnout, the importance of mentorship, and the power of living mindfully, even in our high pressure world. Jocelyn shared her personal journey and powerful strategies for balancing success with well being. So don't miss this episode if you're looking to elevate your life and just really feel better from all sides. And as always, please make sure you subscribe, share, comment, and come back for more. Jocelyn, welcome to the Shift Podcast.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here.
So, first thing I want to start off with, because I think it's going to lead us into all the different topics in this conversation, is living in 12 countries. Talk to me about that. What brought you to these different places? What has been your biggest learning lessons? And then we'll take it from there.
Well, for me, that has been my biggest learning, but also my greatest gift in the entire world. Like being able to live in different countries, being able to discover myself in that country, to discover that culture, to discover a new way of being, and to be able to kind of like morph that all into this beautiful life that I get to recreate. And each time I go to another country, I get to recreate another version of myself, And when I'm, living in Italy eating pasta, it's so different than being in Hawaii eating pasta. There's so many, it's the energy, it's the morphic field, it's the culture, it's the people. And to
Mhm.
me, living there is so much more different than if I was there for vacation. Going there, living, working, immersing with the culture and having friends there, seeing the everyday life, not just the sights, is so much more different. And we become a different person, which wherever we are, like we adapt to our environment. And that's one of the things that I also discovered. And I started my first contract when I was 16. So I did start through modeling. My first contract when I was 16 in Tokyo. And that was my first discovery of another place on this tiny, island, from this tiny little island in Hawaii, to then going overseas and discovering there's this whole world out there, and it puts everything into perspective. And so every summer I did a contract, and then once I graduated, I was off.
That's amazing. You know what's interesting is that you got exposed to it pretty early, and I see, many people that it seems like once you get that kind of not I don't know if it's the travel bug or it's just being in a different space to your point because you do change. Like you I don't know anybody who comes back the same person after any travel experience because it's like you're in this different space, you're different yourself, you see how different you are from other people, but then there's this other like level of self-awareness and just the energy you pick up. So talk to me a little bit about that because I've been kind of doing a little bit of reading around, the energy that each space has, right? And I'm sure
Oh,
also like each
absolutely.
country has the same, like, so talk to me a little bit about that.
Yes, well, first, when you are not in your environment, you're not on automatic pilot all the time. When you're at
Mm,
home, it's easy to be on automatic pilot. It's easy to just kind of be a zombie and go through our life, go through the motions. But when you're not in your space, it's all discovery. It's like, where am I going to eat today? Where am I going to go today? How am I going to discover this transportation? Which is also why I love different countries, because it's if I go from one state to another, it's very similar. But if I go to a different country, it's a whole, to me, it's like a whole new world. And I also love Europe because you could be in one country and you could take a train to the next one, which is right next door to it, but it still has its own energy. It has its own uniqueness to it.
mm-hmm.
And so you get to dip into different people's worlds, different people's realities. And you get to, every single time you go, it takes you out of where you're at and you break state. And so you get a different perspective. And so even I love taking my 4 year, he's now 5, on trips because every time he goes on a trip, he expands. It's impossible not to expand when you're in a different environment. Like hermit crabs, they grow to their shell, and then then they leave and they find another shell, and then they grow to that shell, and the same
Mm-hmm.
thing. I truly believe that's what we're doing as well too, and so I don't feel like it's a travel bug. I mean, yes, it's like we love to travel, but it's more of how alive we feel, how
Mm.
we're exploring the adventure of it. Like we're so present. At the beginning of your trip, it seems like you have a long trip, but by the end, it feels like it went by so fast. But then when you come home, that 3 weeks was like a year compared to your 3 weeks here at home because you're
Yeah.
present. You're present in the moment, you're present with the people. You also stop you don't have pressure. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Like when you're it I mean, when you're in another country, especially when I was setting up, it was more of a discovery for me. It was a lot of discovering this city, discovering this culture versus like when I'm here, I make everything mean everything, and I used to put so much pressure on everything. So I love to live my life as a vacation now. Like I love to set the intention that this life is a vacation. There's no difference from me being here living my best life for being somewhere else living my best life as long as I make myself conscious, as
mm,
long as I'm present and I'm grounded and I discover things here and I discover how to make things magical here. So I get to bring that magic to my everyday life and realize that I don't need to make everything mean everything. There was a time where in my last career I didn't handle pressure very well. And so I would always have to go on vacation somewhere to decompress, right? And there was this one trip, it was a really crazy month for us. And my husband and I went to Thailand. We booked a villa and it had a cook and it had everything. It had all amenities, the infinity pool and everything. And so we didn't have to leave. The first day where we got there, I was just like, when you go on vacation, you get that out breath and you're just
mhm,
like, oh. But it took me an entire day to relax. It
mm,
wasn't until the next day that I woke up and I got centered again and I was like, "Wow, what was I doing? All that stuff, all that noise, all the meaning making I was making, all the pressure, the perceived pressure,
mm,
nothing changed in my life except I gave myself permission to take a
mhm,
break." So all we need to do in our life here is to give ourselves permission. So if I ever get overwhelmed here, I literally close my eyes and I'll go back to that second day and that feeling of what I felt on that second day of that vacation and bring that feeling here.
mm,
And then make sure that I can live I'm not a master at it, but I bring
yeah,
that to my everyday life and when I do, things flow. Not
mhm,
only do I have more time and energy because I'm not making all these meanings and pressure and all this stuff, but I'm also enjoying the process of it more and I'm present and I'm living and it feels like a vacation because I get to make it a vacation. So we
mhm.
get to bring that magic back to our life.
Yeah, it is so powerful what you're saying because I'm just reflecting on the last time that we were on like a nice long vacation, and actually Thailand was one of those places as well, and it's almost like, for me, by the way, it takes 3 days to disconnect. So I don't know what that says about me. So good to you that it takes you a day. It takes at least 3 days for me to be like, oh, I'm on vacation. I don't have to think about work anymore. But it is something like, you want to come back and you're like, I'm going to make all these changes. I'm going to apply all these, things that I'm learning, and we're going to keep doing this. And then you come back and it's like you have all these pressures and things, but it is a mindset shift that you have to make in order for you to maintain that. And I think, we get so caught up, and especially in like, I'm right outside of Washington, D.C. It's a very, it's like, it's just such a different vibe. And it's almost like you get sucked into it. And we always joke, we're like, we should just, move to Costa Rica, or, my boyfriend and I, and so on. But it's just you get caught up because there's also this chase to like success versus fulfillment. And I know
Yes.
that's something that you talk about as well. So talk to me about like the difference, because I think that's what we're chasing. I think we're chasing fulfillment and as people, but we kind of, because I don't even know if people know what success is to each person. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this?
So the thing that I wanted to it is mindset. So you when you said you're on the trip and you're like, I'm gonna do all these things, and then you come back and you get sucked back into it, right? It is all mindset because the only difference to you being on vacation and giving yourself permission not to worry about it is that you gave yourself permission to not worry about it. If you
Yeah.
truly knew every single day here that if you just woke up every single day and took the aligned action, and you don't have to worry about it working or not. You know it's going to work. It is inevitable that it's going to work if you just show up every single day and you take aligned action. You're not going to worry. The pressure is not going to be there. There's not going to need, like, if we're not living for the results and we're living to actually create what we're creating, we're still going to take those aligned actions every single day. But one of us is going to be more magnetized because we're living and we're loving the process of it, and we know that it's going to happen no matter what because we're never going to stop.
Mm.
And then we also get to live this life like a vacation, like go, go watch a sunset somewhere, or go to, to the mountains or the beach or wherever you have like something, immerse in nature, trusting and knowing that if you just take these aligned actions every single day, it is inevitable that your business is going to grow. It is inevitable that all these things are going to happen. You become magnetized, people can feel the life on you, and then you
Mm.
start attracting opportunities to you out of the blue. You get those emails out of the blue, the chance encounters, because you're like so lit up. When you think about when you're out on the street and you see someone so lit up, you want to talk to them. People will go over and talk to them and be curious about, like, why is this person so alive? You know what I mean? They don't know why, they just feel it. But then there's the other version of us that does the same steps but is stressed out about it, wondering if it's going to work, wanting it to happen faster, like afraid of what other people are going to think of achieving and failing and proving and pleasing and all this stuff. And so we just spiral down. And so we're doing the same actions, but it's not having as much effect
Mhm.
because we're drained and we're tired. And who's going to want to, come and talk to
Yeah.
us if we're like grumpy and tired, and we're not, and we shut down the synchronicity, right? So it's all that mindset. So what I do is I've been doing this for years, not for years, for at least a year, is creating a life here that is so balanced that I don't need a vacation from it. And so I'm very mindful of my energy being that energy in Thailand when I'm decompressed, right? And so if I'm not, I'll find a way to pull myself back to it, because I know if I do, I become magnetized. And so then I co-create with the universe by them dropping things in out of the blue, and I take the line action every single day so that it's easier versus
Mhm.
who I used to be, where I had to do it all on my own and I was doubting every step of the way whether this was going to work or not, right? And so
Mhm.
that's an energy drain in itself. And then all of the other things. And when you pull that back in, you create this unbelievable life that you don't need a vacation from. So now when I go on vacation, like I went for 3 weeks, it wasn't like, okay, I'm going to work and work and work and work and get there. And then I'm going to be like, and have the out breath. To me, it was, how do I get to play with this to make this life so amazing leading up to it that I'm not like wishing that I'm on vacation, that I
Mhm.
can love this life as much as my vacation, and the vacation just gets to be icing on the cake.
Mhm.
Then when I'm on vacation, I get to discover my blind spots of what still what programs I'm still running behind my head, so that I could then take it, deepen it even more. So when I go on vacation now, it's not like a big out breath. It's just another step of where I'm going. And then when I come back, I get to bring that with me. But
Mm.
also, like you said, when you come back, you feel the stuff, right? It's the morphic field, it's collective consciousness of the city that you're going back into, because you're tapped into their morphic field and their collective conscious and collective unconsciousness. And so our job is to build our morphic field, our belief codes, our power so much stronger that that doesn't override us. So
Mm.
whatever we get to do with reprogramming, with doing ice baths, with meditation, working out, like as soon as I came home, that I arrived around midnight. The next morning, I went back to my gym because I know that that's what keeps me grounded. So
Mm.
at 5 a.m., even though I went to bed after midnight, I woke up and I'm like, I know that this is going to keep me grounded so I don't get overrided by the morphic field and the collective unconscious, so I don't get sucked into patterns. How do
Mm.
I ground myself and start from here? And every time I start to feel like I'm rushing with all the things that I came up on vacation of the things I want to do,
Yeah.
I know that that rushing is going to slow me down. So I'm like, no, I get to build this in my time. I get to build this with love, with passion, knowing that when I do that, it's going to have much more of an impact when people receive it versus me just doing the tasks and doing it. And I know because I did a 365-day reel challenge, and I was putting out reels all the time, and by like I don't know what month it was, like the second or third month, I started having like zero engagement. Like, almost some of them had no likes because I was just putting it out to put it out. And so I
Mm.
stopped and I'm like, I'm done with this. I'm gonna post when I feel called to post, when I feel aligned to post, when I'm gonna magnetize my energy, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
be so lit up by this post, and then I'm gonna post it. And that's what's been building my social media. And you can tell a difference in the engagement when I post in my power and when I just post to post. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
so, what if our job is just to get so much in our power and then be brave enough to take aligned, vulnerable action and then surrender, knowing that it's coming no matter what. And so then we can have that peaceful vacation life. And then also make everything in your life a vacation. Like we put so much importance on our business, but what if our business is just, us taking a train somewhere on another when you're on vacation somewhere or living in another country, it's just another thing. It doesn't make us worthy or deserving or successful because we just are. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just we get to do our business, we get to have amazing
Mm-hmm.
relationships, I get to be an amazing mom, I get to have self-care and go to the beach, and that's just all it gets to be. And then
Mm.
it's just like, ah.
Yeah. I'm getting better and better, and my friends who know me, I'm very like on all the time, and I'm getting really I mean, I'm proud of myself. I feel like making great progress. And the other day I remember thinking I woke up and kind of almost like in this anxiety for no reason. Like I have a really good life, thank God. Like I'm really blessed as a person. And and I woke up and I was thinking through my to-do list, and then all of a sudden I started getting like anxious, and I'm like, and then I had to talk to myself, to your point, like I just had this conversation, was like, I don't have, like, I'm gonna get it done. There's no need to feel all this anxiety. It's awesome that I have all these things that I need to do, and like it's gonna be fine. So I found that that helps me. And what also has helped me is I quit caffeine. So I quit like
Mm.
coffee and caffeine, and that has been super impactful to me. So I want to talk a little bit about the impact of the food that we eat and just the things that we put in our bodies, because I have seen a huge difference in myself, and also define morphic field for me.
So collective consciousness is like when 70% of a population believes in something, whether you believe it in or not, you're part of it, like the herd mentality, right? Like you're
Mm-hmm.
part of it. Morphic field is like so much bigger, right? It's just so much bigger than that. And there's lots of coding in there. And if you're in the morphic field of like, if you believe and you're in the morphic field that in the economy, if in a bad economy, if things are going good, that you have to shrink back and you're going to lose money and you have to
Mm-hmm.
like tighten the belt and all of that, you're going to have those symptoms, right? But if you're in the morphic field that, you know what, in the when economies are bad, billionaires are created, millionaires are created. I'm in that
Yeah.
morphic field. I'm
Mm-hmm.
in that expansion. So I get excited about this. And then when it's an energy that's bigger than you, right? That you put yourself in. So it's like the symptoms of it. Like when you're in herd mentality, if something happens, you're along with it. Even if you don't believe in it, you'll still get the same symptoms, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you are in this other morphic field, it's just like it's it's bigger. I don't know how to explain it scientifically because I'm
Yeah.
not a whole scientific thing, but I feel it. Like I just feel when I'm coming into, like when we were coming off the boat, we were out in, the ocean, right? And we were just, like, out there, and we are coming back in, and I could just feel the energy of the city as I'm
Mm-hmm.
coming back into it. Morphic field is even you don't even have to be in the energy of the city, it's just, like, this belief, it's like this matrix that you're kind of, like, living in,
Mm-hmm.
and so even if you're not in that city in another country, it's just this matrix, and you believe in these matrix, so you're manifesting these matrix because 'cause we're
Mm-hmm.
manifesting
Mm-hmm.
every single second of every single day.
Yeah.
It's just what are our beliefs and the matrix that we're living in and the reality that we're living in. I would call it more like a reality that you're living in and that you
Yeah.
get to then spread that to everyone, whether you're in the same place or not. It doesn't matter where you are. It's just what are you tapping into and what codes are you downloading and what are you like programming into your brain every single day.
Mm. I'm curious if some people are more sensitive to that than others, because I feel like I was always told by my friends that I'm really good at like energies and like picking out like that's just bad vibes, and some people are just completely blind. I have friends, I'm like, do you not see, like this person is just, it's all bad vibe right there, and she'll be like, no, like, so I think that some people pick it up, and I wonder, like, have you given any thoughts like why that is? Is it just like you got to do the self work, maybe because I've gone through a lot of personal development stuff, so I'm a little bit more in tune, or is it just like
It's the
a
in
thing? Yeah.
it's the awareness. It's the
Yeah.
awareness because everybody has this ability to tune into energy and to be aware of it. But when we are in automatic pilot, when we are numbed, like you said, from food, from alcohol, from whatever it is, and I'm not saying that I don't drink. Like I'll drink if I'm celebrating something or if I'm on
Right.
vacation or whatever, because I don't have judgment around all of
Mm-hmm.
that. I just know that if my body, if it's gonna make my body numb,
Mm-hmm.
in this moment, do I desire that right now? Is that the
Mhm.
state that I get to be in? I get to choose. I don't make anything right or wrong anymore, and I don't judge it. It's just what feels in an energetic alignment now. So the more that you are in tune, the more you're going to feel these things. The more you're going to feel the subtle shifts. The more you're going to be with someone and you're going to feel their energy, and you can feel the authenticity or you can feel the insecurities. I think it also depends on your human design. So for me, do you know much about human design?
No.
In human design, I recommend everybody to get their free body graph or their free human design. It's on mybodygraph.com, and it'll tell you your energy type. It'll tell you like for me, I'm a 1-3, so it's like an investigator in the phoenix. So it tells you all of these things, but it also shows you where you're defined and where you're open. So I'm open from my center to my head, which means that I'm very influenceable by whoever I'm around. And so I need to be aware that I'm very influenceable, because before I used to thought I had social anxiety because I'd
Mm.
go into parties and sometimes I'd feel good and sometimes I wouldn't, and other times I would be just like so insecure or whatever it might be, and other times I'd feel amazing and I didn't know what was wrong with me, so I always liked to kind of like hang out by myself because I didn't know that I was open. But that's also becomes your superpower, because when you are aware of that and you can ground in your knowing and you can feel when it's not yours or when it's yours, then you can tap in with clients and you can tap into their energy and their morphic field and feel what it feels like, what they're going through, right? So it's all awareness. Like you've done so much work, and so you're very mindful. And so when you're going into places, you're aware, you're not just there, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
the more you do that, the more in tune you get, the more that you cut out the noise, the more you're present. Because if we're an automatic pilot, we're not going to notice anything. We're
Mm.
just kind of like going through the motions, you know? But when you're present, you can feel, wow, this felt really good and this doesn't feel good. And
Mm.
there's nothing wrong with it not feeling good. It just means that it's not an energetic match for us. Because to someone else, it might feel good to them. But to us, it's just not an energetic match, and we're better here, and we thrive more here.
Mm. I'm curious for somebody who, people who are listening who might say, like, listen, Jocelyn, I hear you. I hear you. I want to be there. But also having gone through my own personal, I feel like I'm always going through some kind of growth. And I feel like it's just part of life and it should be maybe. I don't know. But it's been really good to me. But I've also been going through it for years. And it had and that came out of because, just bad situations in life. So it was like almost like I was forced to make a change. And so now I'm like I'm with you in everything that you're saying, and this is something I really believe and practice. But what if somebody was listening who's like, I'm with you, but I don't even know where to start. My life is crazy. My partner's driving me crazy. I have 2 kids under 4. You know, like how do I find time? Because I see this a lot with my friends who are mothers, and they're like, it's more of just like I don't have time. I can't even make time. I don't have 5 minutes. Like I have clients who will tell me like I don't have 5 minutes. I'm like and I just let it go for them. I was like, okay, she's not ready to hear this yet, but where do you start for somebody like that?
Well, first they have to tune into the why. We always will make time for everything. They make time, everyone will make time. Sometimes, they say they don't have time, but they're going to sit and watch Netflix or, like whatever these things are.
Yeah.
We always have time, but it has to be important enough to us. So for the mothers, for me, before I never wanted to leave my son, and I felt bad to make time away from him and have self care and all of this until I realized the type of mother that I want to be. And I don't want to be a burnt out mother. I don't want him to see me stressed out all the time. I don't want to have a short fuse. I want to be able to hold space for him. And the only way that I can do that is by making time for myself. So to me, that's what shifted that being a priority of making me time, of being in a program, like I have mentors, being in their program, making that time for me, that space, because when I'm with him, I can be with him. I can hold
Hmm.
space for him. If he does something, I don't have to snap or get grumpy. And so it's just about our why. Like, what do we desire to be? And then we have to make the commitment to take the action steps to do it, because we will always find time, even for mothers that never had a child. And before they had their first child, they were so busy all the time. And they're like, I don't even know if I have time. And then you have a kid, and now you have like your priorities change. And then you're like, oh, having one kid is so overwhelming. And then you bring another kid into the picture, and somehow you manage. We will always manage based on our priorities and our why. So if it's important enough to us to be balanced, to be there for our kids, to be an amazing partner. Like, we don't have time for our partners and we don't go on dates and we don't create the magic, the marriage falls apart, you're fighting all the time,
Mhm.
then what's the point? But if you value that, you will make time for dates, even if it's once a month where you go and you connect and you sit there and you don't talk about work, you don't talk about kids, you don't talk about life. You talk about, your love, about why you fell in love with each other, your desires, what you love about your life, then it's your marriage is going to be amazing, right? Like it's all our priorities of what's important. We have
Mhm.
to get off the merry-go-round and stop responding to everything and start saying, this is what I desire. Now, what action steps can I put into place to make it happen? Otherwise, we're always going to be on the merry-go-round and we're never going to have time.
Mhm.
The other thing is boundaries. You're never going to have time because you're doing everything for everyone else all the time, thinking, worrying. Like, even just thinking about what they're going to think about you is
Mm.
draining. So even if you're just worried about like I was gonna do a post about this today about like how much time do you spend justifying your answers? So if someone asks you to go and do something and you don't desire to do it, how much time do you think about how you're gonna tell them you don't want to do it and why, and make it and give yourself a reason why you should say and give them a reason versus just creating and cultivating relationships in your life like with my husband, my family, my friends, where they know that I'm authentic and I'm gonna speak my truth, and if it's a no, not because of them, but because it's not an energetic match right now, or I'm burnt
Mhm.
out, or whatever it is, and no is a complete sentence,
Mhm.
and they get it, and I cultivate those relationships without having to explain myself all the time. All that is wasted time. So
Yeah.
it's just looking in your life and saying, "Where am I wasting time? Where am I leaking my energy into people's opinions, and where do I get to pull it in?" And the way to do that is really, like you said, working on yourself. But it's not working on ourselves because we have to. It's because we get
Mhm.
to make it easier and more magical every week because it's an evolution over our entire lifetimes. And so it's not because there's something broken. It's because we get to discover, we get to make it easier, we get to make it more magical. So we look at our life and we say, okay, well, what part is sticky? Now, how do I get off the merry-go-round and say, okay, it might be chaotic at first. People might get upset. So when I first got off the merry-go-round and I started setting boundaries, a lot of people got upset. And there was a lot of emotional blackmail, a lot of stuff, not because they meant to, but
Mhm.
because I wasn't being the person that I was being, and it was shaking up their reality as well. They weren't doing it on purpose. It's just a strategy that we learn. But
Mhm.
I had to know that I was doing it for me, for
Mhm.
them, and for the
Mhm.
whole world. Because
Yeah.
I'm useless just being burnt out all the time, stressed out, snapping at everybody, wishing life was different and being miserable. Like I'm not helping anybody that way. So I had to say I'm doing this for us, and I had to have the goals of, like I had to know that I would much rather take this time and not go and see you and be grumpy then take this time, recharge my batteries, and when I see you next, be so happy to see you, be so grateful
Mhm.
to see you, be present with you, just like with my son and all of that. And so once you do that, the changes start happening.
Mm. Yeah, actually, my boyfriend and I were talking about it the other day, how when you grow and you change, that a lot of times the people that have known you in this other lens, it's almost like they take it personally, and you're like, but it's not about you. And it's very interesting to observe because I mean we talk about it quite often, and it's through our own kind of journeys, like together as a couple, but also individually, and how we see the shifts in the environment and the people that we're in, the communities that we're a part of. And it's just very interesting because right now, like the biggest questions I ask myself is, what is it that I don't know that I'm gonna look back to in like 10 years and be like, what am I not doing right now that is in alignment with the life that I'm trying, because we don't know what we don't know. And it's always like a thought. I'm like, what should I be doing? Right? That's going to, bring me more of that. But I also feel like it's a process and the process takes time. Yeah.
So a lot of things that will help as well is when you can get into when you know what your vision is. If you don't know what your vision is, you're flying blind.
Mm,
And then you have no motivation to do the hard stuff. So I always use an analogy of a kid running to Disneyland, and he's running to Disneyland. He's so excited. He trips and he falls. He gets right back up and he keeps going. Then he trips over a rock and he doesn't get pissed off at the rock or frustrated. He just gets right back up and keeps going because he knows he's going to Disneyland. But if he was in a park somewhere and he was bored and he didn't have anyone to play with and he wasn't getting attention from his mom or parents and he tripped and fell, he'd probably look around to see if anybody was looking and then wait for someone to come and comfort him, right?
Mm.
And then again, something else would happen. We are just like kids. If we don't have that Disneyland that we're running to, or that not running, I say walking because it's
Yeah.
just walking, it's just unfolding. If we don't have that why, we're not going to hold boundaries. It's going to be
Mhm.
really hard. Like the boundaries that I had to hold after 5 miscarriages to create my life the way that I desired it now, the way that it is, I had to go through those miscarriages. Each one brought me so much awareness, and so it was they were my greatest gifts, and they gave me the strength. It wasn't away from motivation, which was
Mhm.
not how I live my life now. Before, it was like something bad had to happen so that I would make the change, right? And so then I put in boundaries because I knew that I had something had to change.
Mhm.
Once I got through those things, it gave me the permission to hold those boundaries. But now I don't want to have something bad happen to hold those boundaries.
Mhm.
Now I want to be toward motivated. So I'm always in my vision, and my vision changes and grows as I get closer to it. It grows bigger and bigger and bigger so that it's still my inspiration to go to Disneyland. So whatever that Disneyland is at that in that time, if I know that going to the gym, like I know I ask my soul, I tune in and my soul's like, okay, going to the gym tomorrow is in alignment because it's going to amplify our energy and it's going to go. But in the morning the alarm goes off, I want to snooze it. So now I'm like, okay, soul, give me a vision, show me my why, show me what's coming to inspire me to get out of bed. And
Mhm.
so when I'm tapped into the inspiration, I'm like, yeah, okay, I get out and I'm super energized going. Versus if it was away from motivation, because if I don't get out of bed, that means I'm not going to be successful. That means that this isn't going to happen and blah, 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 blah. I'm going to get out of bed, but I'm going to be sluggish. I'm going to be walking and I'm going to be forcing myself to do it, draining my energy even more. So if
Mm.
you know what that why is and you step into the future memory of it. So I have a soul evolution process that people can message me about. I give it to them after my free mastermind. So if they join a free mastermind, then they get to use this to continue on in their life. But it's something you tune in every single day and you ask your soul, what's my next step of evolution today? What's going to bring most value to my business, to my relationships, to my life, so that I could have a
Mhm.
balanced life and to my vision? And then when you have that knowing, then you get to step into it with peace, knowing that it's unfolding.
Mm.
Also, I truly believe, and I took on this belief code, whether it's true or not, but for me, it was like a remembrance that I channeled that all our dreams and our desires are a future echo from a future version of us, showing us what's coming, showing
Mm.
us the inspiration to get up and to do the hard stuff and to take those steps and to take those leaps and be vulnerable. And so in quantum physics, past, present, futures in the now. So we get to step into that future memory and we get to feel those feelings of being there.
Mm.
And we get to ignite and we get to be on that frequency and that vibration. And we get to resonate from that level to then start attracting more of it when we live in the knowing that it's coming.
Mm.
And then we just every single day tune into our soul for the next step, the next breadcrumb that we follow, the next step that we take. We don't have to know all the steps
Mhm.
because if we do, we're going to get more of the same because we only know how to create what we've created. But
Yeah.
when we know it's a co-creation with the universe, and we know that if we're in alignment and we're in alignment, then the universe gets to drop in stuff that we don't even know, like stuff beyond our wildest dreams, like all our amazing things like this podcast that I get to like connect with you on. That came in, out of the blue from me
Mhm.
taking aligned action. I couldn't have planned to I mean, I could, do all the research and do all this stuff, or we could just be in alignment and then let the universe drop in the things, knowing that they're going to. And the more in alignment we are, the more that it's going to drop in because I know we're born an energetic match for our goals and desires. The
Mm.
only thing stopping it from dropping in faster is all our beliefs and our issues and our doubts and our worries, and that it has to come to us, but it has to come through all of this. So all we
Mm.
get to do is discover what those beliefs are and knock them out and shift them out. And if you have so much inner power and you cultivate the knowing that you're not your conditioned mind and you're not all this stuff, that you're your soul,
Mhm.
and your soul is same power but different to everybody's soul in the entire world. that ever existed or not, and that all our souls are one of the same. We're all part of source. We're all one. And so we're all infinite. We have access to the infinite knowledge, the infinite wisdom, the infinite everything. You know, like when movies, they're like, I dreamt about it. Einstein, I think it was Einstein or Edison, if he couldn't figure it out, he'd go to sleep. And then he'd wake up and he'd have the answer because we're all just channeling us, a source. Like we
Mm-hmm.
have that information. We shut it down when we need to make sense of it and to need to know the how and the why and the meaning and all of these things. So all we need to do is say, okay, well, I'm bigger than this.
Mm-hmm.
Like I am my infinite power from my infinite soul. And you cultivate that every single day, you won't have fears because look at everything you've gotten through to get to this point. And
Yeah.
if you can get through all of that to here, you're going to be okay no matter what. It might not be comfortable, but you're going to transmute it into your superpower or something. And so when you can like be in that knowing, everything changes, but it comes from cultivating that and realizing that we are not a victim to our circumstances. That yes, we've been through a lot in our life, but what if our soul chose to go through that to experience the duality of it? Because if you don't have to climb the mountain, it doesn't,
Mm-hmm.
like, you're just going to be standing on flat ground. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then what's the point, right? Like it's the journey of climbing that mountain to feel the feelings of being at the top of the mountain. And so
Mm-hmm.
there's no good, bad, right, wrong. There's no like, oh no, I'm in a bad spot right now. It's the spot that you get to be in, to experience, to shift, to change, to evolve, to experience the duality, to then feel the celebration on the other side. And then you
Mm-hmm.
get to do it all over again because otherwise you'll be bored out of your mind like Groundhog Day, every single day being the same thing. But we forget that we're going to be bored. We all
Yeah.
think that we're going to get to this place and everything's going to be perfect. But how boring would that be if there was
Yeah.
nothing else to explore or grow or expand on?
Yeah. Well, listen, one thing is for sure is that you are influential. I
Oh,
am
thank you.
sold, and I'm
You
sure
too.
people that are listening to this, they're probably like, okay, I'm done. I'm going to do this. I'm going to change. I'm going to start waking up and talking to what does my soul want to do. I'm sold. I'm yeah. It's so spot on everything you said, and it's like I just wish people knew how simple it can be because it is simple. Then I could talk to you for hours, but unfortunately, I have to wrap this up.
Yeah.
Where can people find you? What's your website? Where do you hang out at the most on social media?
Well, for me, my Instagram is where I put everything in. I channel whatever, needs to come through, what we're shifting as a consciousness, anything that I feel that it's going to be something to activate something. So I always put that through my social media and then any programs or anything that I'm running as well too. And then I have my website, but everything mostly comes through my social media.
Beautiful. And I'll make sure to put all that in the show notes. Jocelyn,
Yeah.
thank you so much. I really
Thank
want to
you
do
so
part two. I
much.
feel that this is not does not
Yeah.
do justice because I have a million and one questions. So let's do a part
Um,
two when you're available.
yeah, and also I do a free mastermind every couple months. So if anybody
Nice.
wants to sign up for that free mastermind, because the thing is, listening to this podcast is going to inspire you, but
Yeah.
you got to keep the flame going. And that's why I created my programs. That's why I'm in my mentors programs, because even though I have all this mindset, plugging in, not like doing it by ourselves. It's like if you were at home and you were trying to work out at home on TV by yourself or doing an exercise by yourself, you
Yeah.
can do it, but it's not as like for me, I need to sign up for F45 and I have a class
Yeah.
there at that time to show up. And when I show
Yeah.
up, I do it, right? So you build that momentum from there. But like listening to this, listening to your podcast, all the guests that you have on, if they're just in it and they're making these actions every single day, join the free mastermind, get ignited, and then in the free mastermind, I give you the soul evolution process so that you could take that step every single day, but you got to take that step every single day because it's so easy to shrink right back. Just like
Yeah.
when you're on vacation and you come back to life and then you come back to all of the things, it's that mindset. It's all in our head.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also like once we get out of our head into our bodies,
Yeah.
it's so different, but it's all man-made. All of our problems are man-made. It's like the
Yes.
meaning-making machine. So how do you override that every day and do something every single day to keep the inspiration going?
Nice. I'll
Thank
make
you
sure to
so
put the
much.
mastermind in the show notes as well. Thank you, and
Thank
we'll
you,
talk
thank
again soon.
you.